Hi everyone, and welcome to my channel. For this tutorial today you will need a G hook, a medium weight 4 yarn, a pair of scissors, and you could use a measuring tape, and I'll show you where you will need that if you choose to do it that way. So let's get started. So the first thing we're going to do, of course, is make our slip knot. Oops. And then we're going to start making our chains. So I will put a picture up too, but for a size small, you're going to chain out 152 chains. A medium is 160. A large is 168. An extra large would be 176 chains. 2X is 184 chains. And a 3X would be 192 chains. So these are my recommendations. I'll show you how to make sure that this chain will fit your body. But let's start off just by making our chains. So to do this, I'm going to go ahead and make about 10 chains. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Okay, so once I get a couple of chains going, I'm going to remove my hook from that loop and pull it up a little bit, and then I'm going to, so this would be kind of like the top, I guess, where you have the V's, and on the back side you have these little bumps there. I'm going to insert my hook back into this first stitch from the bumpy side, not the V side, and then I'm going to just place that working loop back on my hook, because we're going to end up slip stitching this long chain together. So just make sure that the V's are on the inside and the bumps are on the outside when you do this, and then go ahead and finish making the amount of chains that you need for your desired size. And I will meet you at the end and show you what to do after that. Okay, so I finished my chain and I made 160. I'm making a medium here. And so from here, what we're going to do is just go ahead and slip stitch these. Whoops, I mean chain one more. Just go ahead and slip stitch these two together and close that up. And from here, what we're going to do next is chain one. And we're going to go along this circle, this chain, with single crochets. So insert your hook, pull up a loop, and single crochet. Insert into the next chain space, pull up a loop, and single crochet. So for this row, all we're going to do is basic single crochets until we reach the end, and I'll show you what's after that. Okay, so I have 2 more stitches left for my single crochets, and then I'm going to go ahead, whoops, it got twisted, and make sure it's not twisted. I'm going to go ahead and slip stitch, not into the chain one, but into the first single crochet, and slip stitch. Okay, so from here, it's a good idea to go ahead and slip this over your shoulders and just make sure that it fits. If it doesn't fit, you're gonna go ahead and add, you're gonna have to redo this, but add 8 more chains to it. This project is gonna be done in multiples of 8. Another way you can do it is measure your, I don't know if this really makes sense, but measure like around your shoulders. Put the oh, what's that thing called? Your tape measure. Put your tape measure all the way around your shoulders from the back side and measure that out and make your chain that long, but it has to be in multiples of 8. Okay, so moving on from there, what we're doing next is we're going to chain 1, and then in this next stitch here we're going to do a double crochet. So go ahead and put a double crochet in that first chain space there, and then chain 1. Then we're going to skip 1 stitch and do a double crochet into the next stitch. So go ahead and yarn over, skip a stitch, and do a double crochet into the next stitch, and then go ahead and chain 1 and skip the next stitch, and we're putting a double crochet in the next stitch. Chain 1, skip 1 stitch, and double crochet into the next stitch. So this row is pretty simple. This is all we're going to be doing is double crochet, chain 1, skip a stitch, and double crochet into the next stitch. So go ahead and continue this pattern till the end of the row, and I will show you what's after that. Okay, so I have one more double crochet here. And then I'm going to chain 1, and I'm going to slip stitch on top of this very first double crochet. Okay, so this is what your shirt should look like so far. Okay, so after you slip stitch here, what we're going to do next is we're going to just slip stitch so that we can get into this this box space, the first box space. So I'm just going to put a slip stitch here and a slip stitch here so that now I'm inside of the box. From here, what I'm going to do is chain 2, and this chain 2 is going to count as a double crochet, and then I'm going to put another double crochet into this box space, then chain 1 and put 2 more double crochets into this box space. And this is our very first shell that we just made. So now I'm going to chain 1, and I'm going to skip this next box and go to the second box, and I'm going to put 2 double crochets, chain 1, 2 double crochets. So 2 double crochets, chain 1, and then 2 more double crochets into the same space. So that is our second shell here. Then go ahead and chain 1, skip 1 box space and go into the next and make another shell. So 2 double crochets, chain 1, and 2 more double crochets into the same space. And from there, chain 1, skip 1 box space and go to the next box space, and we're going to put another shell there. So 2 double crochets, 2 double crochets, chain 1, and 2 double crochets in the same box space. So we are going to continue this pattern of making shells in every other little box space here until the end of the row, and make sure you chain 1 in between. And once you're done with this row, I'll show you what's next. Alright, so I have 1 more shell left to make. I already chained 1, so I'm going to go ahead and make my last shell. So when you get here, you should have 1 more box space in between these 2 shells. If you don't, I would recommend going around and counting these shells and making sure that you have an even number of them. If you do not, go ahead and add a double shell if you're like off. Just make sure that you have an even amount of shells here. And once you do that, go ahead and slip stitch into the top of the chain 2 that we did. So go ahead and slip stitch into there. Oops, I didn't chain 1 in between. Make sure you chain 1 in between. And then go ahead and slip stitch into the second chain of the chain 2. Okay. From here, this row is similar. I'm going to slip stitch my way over to this open space of the first shell. So I'm just going to go into top of the next double crochet and slip stitch, and then into the middle of that shell and slip stitch. Now I'm here, and what I'm going to do again is chain 2, and that's going to count as a double crochet, and then I'm going to do another double crochet into this same chain space. This time I'm going to chain 2 in between, 1 and 2. And then I'm going to put 2 more double crochets into the same chain space, 1 and 2. So this shell is similar, it's just got a bigger hole right here. And from here I'm going to now chain 2 instead of chaining 1, chain 2, 1 and 2. And I'm going to make another shell in this next chain space, but this time I'm going to make a shell with only a chain 1 in between. So I'm going to put 1 double crochet or 2 double crochets, chain 1, and 2 double crochets. One and 2. From there I'm going to chain 2, and I'm going to do the first shell that we did in this next shell. So I'm going to put 2 double crochets, 1 and 2, and then I'm going to chain 2, 1, 2, and then put 2 more double crochets. From here I'm going to chain 2, 1, 2, and now I'm going to put another shell in the next, on top of the next shell, but I'm only going to chain 1 in between. So 2 double crochets, chain 1, and then 2 double crochets. So basically this pattern is very similar. This row will be chaining 2 in between every shell, and then we're going to do every other shell with a chain 2. So we'll do a chain 2, a chain 1, a chain 2, and a chain 1. So just alternate those until you get to the beginning of, or the end of this row, and I'll show you what to do after that. So now I have 1 shell left, and your last shell, since we started off with the two chains in between on the first shell, your last shell should end up being a shell with just 1 chain. And again, you just need to make sure that you had an even amount of shells to begin with, so that way every other shell could be 1 chain or 2 chains. So from here, once you finish your last shell, go ahead and chain 2 and slip stitch into the chain 2 of our first shell of this row. I always like to try to get both. There we go. And slip stitch. Alright, from here what I'm going to do is I'm going to slip stitch, or let me show you what it looks like so far. It's just 2 rows of shells. So now we're going to slip stitch so that we can get in the middle of this very first shell of this row. So slip stitch into the next double crochet, and then slip stitch into the middle of this 2 chain space shell. Now what we're going to do is go ahead and chain 2, and this is going to count as 1 double crochet, and then we're going to put 9 more double crochets in this same chain space. So go ahead and put 9 more. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So it'll be 10 total double crochets into this 1 chain space, including the chain 2. So that's 10 double crochets. Next, what we're going to do is go ahead and chain 2, 1 and 2, and in the shell with just the 1 chain space, we're just going to put 1 more shell on top with with only 1 chain space in between. So go ahead and put 2 double crochets, 1 and 2, chain 1, and then 2 more double crochets, 1 and 2. From there we're going to chain 2, 1, 2, and this next shell should have a bigger hole here. We're going to go ahead and put 10 more double crochets in the middle of this shell. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and So now we're going to chain 2, 1, 2, and in this next shell we're just going to put a regular shell with 1 chain space in between. So 2 double crochets, chain 1, and 2 more double crochets, 1, 2, and then we're going to chain 2 and put 10 double crochets into the next shell, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Then we're going to chain 2, and in the next shell we're going to do a regular shell with a chain 1 in between. So 2 double crochets, 1 and 2, chain 1, and 2 more double crochets. So this pattern is going to continue till the end of the row. You're going to do 10 double crochets, chain 2, and a regular shell, chain 2, 10 double crochets, and we're just going to continue every other shell until the end of the row, and I'll show you what's next. Alright, so I have 1 more shell space left, and your last shell should be the smaller shell. The 2 double crochets, chain 1, 2 double crochets. Chain 1 and 2 more double crochets. And then chain 2, 1, 2. And then find your chain 2 that counted as a double crochet, and go ahead and slip stitch into that one. If we can, there we go. Alright, from here what we're going to do next is go ahead and chain 2, 1 and 2, and then we're gonna, this counts as a double crochet. Then we're going to chain 1 more, and that's a double crochet plus a chain 1. So chain 3 to make it simple. And from there we're going to go ahead and double crochet into the next double crochet. Okay, chain 1 and double crochet into the very next double crochet. Chain 1 and double crochet into the next chain space, chain 1, double crochet into the next chain space, chain 1, double crochet into the next chain space, chain 1, double crochet into the next chain space, and chain 1, and double crochet into the next chain space, chain 1, and double crochet into the next chain space, chain 1, and double crochet into the last double crochet. So you should have, including this chain 2 here, you should have 10 double crochets with a chain 1 in between all of them. Okay, next we're going to chain 1, And in the smaller shell, we're just going to go ahead and put another regular shell. So go ahead and do 2 double crochets in the middle. 1, 2, chain 1, and then 2 more double crochets. 1 and 2. From there, we're going to chain 1, and we're going to go into this first double crochet with a double crochet. So go ahead and double crochet, chain 1, and then double crochet into the next chain space, chain 1, and double crochet into the next chain space and chain 1, double crochet into the next chain space, chain 1, double crochet into the next chain space, chain 1, double crochet into the next chain space and chain 1, double crochet and chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, and 1 more double crochet. So again, you should have 10 double crochets with the chain 1 in between, and then go ahead and chain 1, and for the small shell, we're just going to put another small shell on top of it. So 2 double crochets, chain 1, and 2 double crochets. Okay, so this pattern is going to continue. It's 10 double crochets on the bigger shells, 10 double crochets with the chain 1 in between, chain 1 and then a small shell, chain 1, and then repeat. So go ahead and finish this row and I'll show you what's next. Okay, so I finished my last shell. So what I'm going to do now is chain 1 and find that very first chain 2 of the first shell, of the first shell of this row. So find that chain 2 and go ahead and slip stitch. Alright. Now from here, what we're going to do is begin on the pineapple shape. So for this row, the first thing we're going to do is put a single crochet in between this chain 2 and this double crochet. So go ahead and do a single crochet, pull up a loop and single crochet, okay, and then chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to put a single crochet in between the next 2 double crochets, and then chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then single crochet in between the next 2 double crochets, and then chain 3, 1, 2, 3. So this is pretty much how we're going to do these bigger shells. 1, 2, 3, chain 3, and then single crochet into the next space, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then single crochet, and then chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then single crochet in the next gap there, chain 3, and then single crochet into the next gap, and then chain 3 and single crochet. So you should have a total of 9 little loops that we made here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or maybe 8. I'm not sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So yes, sorry, it's you should have 8 little loops here on top of this shell, and once you do your last single crochet here, go ahead and chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then when we get to these regular shells, we're just going to do the same regular shell. So 2 double crochets, chain 1, and 2 double crochets. From there, we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to begin like we did before by putting a single crochet into this first gap between the first 2 double crochets of this shell. So single crochet and then chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then single crochet into the next gap, chain 3, and single crochet into the next gap, chain 3, 2, 3, and then single crochet, chain 3, and then single crochet into the next gap, chain 3, and then single crochet in the next gap, chain 3, and then single crochet, chain 3, and single crochet, chain 3, and single crochet. So again, you should have 8 little loops here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then go ahead and chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and now on the regular shell we're just going to repeat that 2 double crochets, chain 1, and 2 double crochets. So we are going to repeat this pattern doing these little loops here on the big shells, chaining 3 in between, and then the regular 2 double crochets, chain 1, 2 double crochet shells. So we're going to repeat this pattern until the end of this row, and then I'll show you what's coming next. Okay, so I'm on my last shell of this row. I just completed that, so I'm going to go ahead and chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and instead of slip stitching, I'm going to go on and start the next row immediately. So the way to do that is just to, after you chain your 3 there, just go to this first loop here and put a single crochet. All right, so from there we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, And then we're going to single crochet into the next loop here, like that, and then chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then single crochet into the next loop, and then chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then single crochet into the next loop here, 1, 2, 3, and single crochet into that next loop, chain 3, and single crochet into the next loop, chain 3, and then single crochet into the next loop, chain 3, and single crochet into the last loop. So this is what it looks like. Now we have 2 rows of these loops, except 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This row should have 7 loops instead of 8. From here, we're just going to continue. So go ahead and after you do your last single crochet, go ahead and chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to do a regular shell into the next shell. So 2 double crochets, chain 1, and 2 more double crochets into that shell, so after you finish your shell, go ahead and chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and we're going to go straight into this first loop, first of the 8 loops, and do a single crochet, and then chain 3, and single crochet into the next loop, and single crochet into the next loop, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and single crochet into the next loop, chain 3, and single crochet into the next loop, chain 3, and single crochet into the next loop, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and single crochet into the next loop, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and single crochet into that last loop. From there you go ahead and chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and we're going to put our regular shell here. So 2 double crochets, chain 1, and 2 more double crochets into the same shell. So this pattern is going to repeat until the end of the row. So just make sure that you have 7 loops here. It should automatically do it, but yeah, you'll have 7 loops, and then you'll chain 3 and do a regular shell and just repeat until the end of the row, and then I'll meet you there and show you what's next. Okay, so the way that you can tell that you're on the next row is when you come up on the first row that has the same amount as the previous shell that you did before. So this one has that double crochet row and then 2 rows of the little single crochet loops, single crochet, chain 3. And so once it matches the one you just did, that's the next row. It's not super important to understand where the next row comes because it's pretty much the same. And every time we come up to the next row, the amount of loops will decrease one time by one. So the first row had 8 and this row has 7. So this next row will have 6. And you can kind of just continuously go with this pattern. So keep going until you have 1 loop left. And but I'll go ahead and start this row with you just for one more time. So this was the last shell of the previous row. So go ahead and chain 3, 1, 2, 3. And then we're just going to go ahead and get started by single crocheting into this first loop here. And then chaining 3, 1, 2, 3. And then single crochet in the next loop. And then chain 3, 1, 2, 3. And then single crochet in the next loop. And chain 3, and then single crochet in the next loop and chain 3, and single crochet into the next loop and chain 3, and single crochet and chain 3 and single crochet. So this row should have 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you can see that it decreases automatically. So you're just going to keep going along with this pattern, chaining 3 when you get to in between these shells. Just chain 3 and yeah, just keep going until you have one loop left in the pineapple, and I'll show you what that looks like here and coming up. Okay, so I know that I am finished with my pineapples when I come to the first row where there's only 1 loop on top of the pineapple. So I know that this is my first stitch, and I also had recommended earlier, if you wanted, you could put a stitch marker here so you would know where the beginning of the row is. So anyway, go ahead and finish the shell before the small shell before the beginning of your row. Okay, and then when you get here, go ahead and chain 3. 1, 2, 3, and then go ahead and slip stitch right before. So this is the 1 loop on top of the pineapple. Go ahead and slip stitch in that single crochet there that's right before that loop, and that's the end of the row. So I'll show you a picture of what it looks like so far, but basically this pattern is going to repeat until the shirt is long enough for your liking. You can make this a crop top, you can make it, you can do several more rows and make it longer. But what we're going to do is repeat, we're going to repeat starting from the row where we had 1 shell being with chain 2 in the middle, and then another shell being with a chain 1. The only difference is now for this row we're going to switch which one we're going to do the pineapple on, and we're doing the pineapple on the shells with the chain 1 in the middle, and I'll show you what I mean right here. Go ahead and slip stitch into that middle loop on top of the pineapple, so go ahead and slip stitch into there. So now you're in there, and we're going to start our first shell, so go ahead and chain 2, and that counts as a double crochet. So we're going to put 1 more double crochet, a chain 1, and 2 more double crochets. So last time on beneath this pineapple we had the shell stitch that had 2 chains in the middle. This time on top of the pineapple you're gonna put the shell with the chain 1 on it. Okay, and then go ahead and chain 3, and on top of this shell we're going to put a shell with 2 double crochets, and then this time after your first 2 double crochets go ahead and chain 2, and then put 2 more double crochets. So we're just pretty much switching where we're putting the pineapples for this row. Okay, so on top of the pineapple you're going to do this shell with the chain 1. On top of these smaller shells you're going to do the shell with the chain 2, so that this one will now be the basis of the pineapple stitch, if that makes sense. So go ahead and finish this row, and then we'll start our pineapple row after that. So go ahead and chain 3, and then on top of the pineapple, now we're on top of the pineapple again, we're going to put the shell stitch that has a chain 1 in the middle. So that's 2 double crochets, 1 and 2, chain 1, and 2 double crochets. Go ahead and chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and now we're back on the smaller shell here. So we're going to put 2 double crochets, chain 2, and 2 double crochets. Okay, so go ahead and continue this pattern till the end of the row, and then I'll show you what's after that. Okay, so I have 1 more shell left, and it looks like this shell will be the shell with the chain 2. So your last shell of this row should have a chain 2 in the middle. So go ahead and finish your last shell. 2 double crochets, chain 2, and 2 double crochets. And then from there we're going to go ahead and chain 3, 1, 2, 3. And we're going to slip stitch in the chain 2 and the second chain of the chain 2 of the beginning of the row. There we go, slip stitch. And from here I'm going to go ahead and slip stitch until I get to the center of this shell. So essentially what we did before is this pineapple was here, and then we had a row of all shells, all these small shells. So now on top of the pineapple we're going to put all the small shells. So from here, go ahead and chain 2 and put a double crochet, chain 1, 2 double crochets, okay, then we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and on top of this next shell that has a chain 2, we're going to put 10 double crochets into that shell. So we're kind of repeating our pattern, we're just switching which every other one has a pineapple or a shell. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Okay, and then we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3. And then on top of this shell, we're just going to put our regular shell, so 2 double crochets, chain 1, 2 double crochets. Okay, and then we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and put 10 double crochets on top of this shell with the chain 2 on it. Oops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Oops. So from here, I mean, pretty much the pattern repeats from the beginning of this pineapple. So the next row we're gonna do our, you can rewind the video and start where this pineapple started down here. It's gonna be the same. So basically this pattern is gonna repeat from that second row of shells down here. So feel free to rewind. And yes, now you can make this as long as you want. I'm probably gonna do 2 to 3 rows. I'm gonna check and see, or 2 to 3 sets of pineapples, and I'll see how long I kind of like it on my body, and I'll show you what's after that. Okay, so I finished my second row of pineapples. If you want your top to be longer, you can totally do another row of pineapples. I only did 2, but just remember that you're gonna switch which stitch gets the pineapple when you start. Okay, so I'm gonna put a quick border on here, and this is the beginning of the round after slip stitching. So I'm going to first chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to single crochet in the next stitch, and then chain 3, 1, 2, 3. And by the way, this is not on the pineapple, this is on the regular shell here. So we're going to do it this way on the regular shell. So we're chaining 3, single crochet, and then chain 3, single crochet into the middle loop here. then chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then single crochet in the next stitch, and then chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and single crochet in the next stitch. So on top of the shells, the regular shells, we're going to have 4 little loops here, and from there I'm going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and when I get to my pineapple, because it has 1 loop now, find that middle loop, and we're going to put 3 double crochets, 1, 2, 3, and then chain 2, 1, 2, and then 3 more double crochets, 1, 2, and 3. So that's what that one looks like. In the next we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then single crochet on top of that first double crochet of the shell, and then chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then single crochet in the next stitch, and then chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then single crochet into that middle loop there, and then chain 3, 1, 2, 3, single crochet in the next stitch, chain 3, single crochet in the next stitch, and that's on top of the shell there. Then we're going to chain 3, and in that singular loop of the pineapple we're going to put 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 more double crochets in the same loop, and that's what it looks like. So you're going to continue this pattern until we get back to the beginning of this row and our border will be finished. Okay, so I finished my row almost. I just need to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to slip stitch in this little space under the first chain 3 here. And I'm going to chain 1 and go ahead and tie off. And now we will work on the straps. All right, so in order to do our straps, I'm going to face this way and have my working string here. I'm gonna pick a stitch kind of close to it but not on it, so I'm gonna mark off 1 stitch kind of right before it, and then I'm gonna go this way. So however many stitches you have that you started with in your foundation chain, you're going to count out 1/4 of that. So I did 160 chains, so 1/4 for me would be 40 chains. So I'm going to count out 40 chains and then mark that off as well. Okay, so I counted 40 chains and marked both of those off. And then from there, you're gonna count 40 more chains, or however many 1/4 was for you. Count that many, the same amount of chains in and mark it off here. And then 40 more chains and mark it off here, okay? Okay, so I marked off, these two will be the back, I just changed the color, and these two will be the front, or one side and the other side, doesn't really matter. So from here, what we're gonna do is start on our first strap. So I'm going to go ahead and slip stitch. And then I'm going to make a chain of 100 chains. And 100 chains should be enough for everyone. This strap just needs to be long enough to go from how low you want this to sit up into halfway to your shoulder, and also have enough room to make a tie. So I think 100 chains should be enough for everyone, but you can always measure it up against yourself and make sure. But go ahead and chain out 100 chains, and then I'll show you what to do next. All right, once you make your 100 chains, we're going to go back down this string with slip stitches like I always love to do. So go ahead and insert your hook into the previous chain, pull up a loop, and whoops. Oh, I do need to chain one more to skip that one, sorry. So chain one more and then skip one chain, and then put your hook into the next chain, pull up a loop, and slip stitch. Insert into the next chain space, pull up a loop, and slip stitch. We're basically just slip stitching until we get all the way back down to the bottom of this string, and I will meet you there and show you what's after that. Okay, so when you slip stitch into your last chain space, we're gonna go ahead and grab our top, and I'm gonna start on the side that has the tail here. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is remove my first stitch marker and block off that chain. I'm gonna go into this chain here, and I'm gonna go ahead and slip stitch into that chain space there. Okay, so I'll do that one more time. So I just finished my last slip stitch on there, and then I'm going to insert into that first chain space that's next to the string, and I'm gonna go ahead and slip stitch into that chain space. Okay, from there what I'm gonna do is go ahead and single crochet across this row here, and I'm gonna try to cover up both strings. So what you want to do is just insert your hook into the next chain space and single crochet, and we're just going to single crochet all the way down, and we're going to cover both strings as we go. Close that little loop there. Oops. There we go. So go ahead and single crochet to the other side, and I will meet you at the end of this row and show you what's after that. Okay, so when you get to your last, your next stitch marker, go ahead and remove that. Put one more single crochet in that stitch. And then from here we're going to chain, make another long chain of 100 chains. Or if you did a different amount of chains, do that same amount as you did before. Okay, so go ahead and make your chains, and then you can slip stitch back down, and I'll meet you there and show you what to do after that. Alright, so I just have one slip stitch left on my string, and then I'm going to go into that same chain space below where I did my last single crochet. I'm going to go into that same one and slip stitch. From there I'll chain one and tie off. And now you can see, like, this is like one set of straps, so this could be the front or the back, whichever you like. And basically all you're gonna do is repeat that step for the other two straps. So go ahead and repeat that, and then weave in your strings, your loose strings, and you are all finished. Thank you so much for watching.